Hey friends, did you know that you can get rich PowerShell editor support in Azure Data Studio? Now you can write and run PowerShell scripts using an excellent IDE-like interface in Azure Data Studio to do fun things like create a SQL Server in a Linux container with external storage. And Sydney Smith is here to show me how it works today on Azure Friday. Hey friends, I'm Scott Hanselman and it's Azure Friday. I'm here with Sydney Smith who's going to teach me how to set up a SQL Server database in a Linux container, but you're going to use Azure Data Studio?
Yes, I am.
What even is that?
Yeah, so Azure Data Studio is a lot like VS Code, but it's taken the features that are most relevant to data professionals and really made your data management experience a little bit better, but with a lot of the same capabilities and extensibility that VS Code has.
When I saw it, it looked very welcoming. I was just like, oh, this is what I want. This is VS Code, but it's not. It's like really custom for Azure.
Exactly. So if you are familiar with VS Code, you're going to find it to be a really comfortable experience.
Okay, cool. So do you spend a lot of time in here with PowerShell and manipulating data and setting up databases?
I do, and this effort has been really driven by our PowerShell community. They were really the ones who came to us and said, we love your VS Code extension, but we love using PowerShell as a data management tool. And so what can we do to bring this full editing experience into Azure Data Studio? So that was really the genesis of the project. And
then I can have this installed side by side with VS Code?
Absolutely,
it is its own thing.
Completely separate, yep.
Okay, cool. So what are we looking at?
All right, so here one of my teammates sent me some markdown instructions for how to get started with creating this SQL Server. So what I'm going to do is copy this into a notebook in Azure Data Studio. And this is going to give me really nice instructions that we can sort of follow to get started here.
All right.
So the first thing that has been provided is a list of some of the PowerShell modules that are going to be really helpful. So I already have these installed, but if you didn't, you would just open the terminal and use the install module command to get started with these modules.
Okay.
Great. So it looks like the first instruction here was to open the terminal. And so here you can see we have our PowerShell integrated terminal. Next, we're going to create a directory.
You clicked on the markdown and it did it in the terminal.
And that's the beauty of this notebook integration. It makes teaching, following steps, sharing steps with your coworkers really easy to do.
That is cool.
So here we've created the directory that we're going to need. And we can go on to the next step, which is going to get these SQL servers up and spinning. This does take a couple of minutes, so I have another window where
you put the pie in the oven and you got the other pie that's already
Exactly, totally. So here's where you can start to see how valuable it is to really have this fully integrated experience. Here we have the PowerShell output. You can see the servers that have been created. But then also you have this connections panel in Azure Data Studio. So you can also interact with these servers you've just created here. So if you want to click into master, for example, you can verify some of this information about it.
And this feels very kind of natural. Like in the past, I've always installed like SQL Server Management Studio. Does this replace that?
So this can be a side-by-side experience.
Oh, okay, cool.
So this is really great when you're running quick queries, editing, that sort of thing. But you can also still use the other tools you're familiar with.
Okay, cool. That's good to know.
So from here, I am a PowerShell scripter. So of course, I want to view the PowerShell script that was used to create these servers. And so here you can start to see the full PowerShell editing experience that you might expect with color syntax highlighting and these sorts of things.
Yeah, I noticed right away I get the syntax highlighting, but then just a moment ago you hovered over something and I actually got a tooltip on it, so that's a function, and then if you hover over something like invoke web request, it gave you additional information about what's going on in that particular commandlet.
Right, exactly. So you can see the parameter information, and this becomes especially useful if I want to add in some of my own scripting. So let's create a new editor file.
You might want to just run clear down there.
Yeah, let's close the clear down. There we go. New editor file. Let's call it manage PS1.
Okay, well hang on.
PowerShell file.
Hang on. You were in Markdown and you clicked a link and it did something in the terminal, and now you're doing something in the terminal, and it's going to talk back. You're going to make a new file?
Yep. So here we go. Hit enter, and now I have a full PowerShell script file in Azure Data Studio. So I can still have my notebook here and my servers here.
I had no idea that you could have PowerShell tell the editor what to do, and then the editor can tell PowerShell what to do, and they're going back and forth. It's very natural.
Yeah, so that's where the integrated terminal really comes into play. So now let's say I want to get a SQL database. So you can see I have these completions. There we go.
Yeah.
And it also has the parameter completions. And what's great is I can see my servers here on the left.
Right.
So when I want my server instance, I know exactly what to type. Let's put in a name. So this is going to be the name of one of the databases.
All right.
So let's see, I want Adventure Works 2016, and it's right there.
You got autocomplete on that. That's cool.
Exactly. And we'll need a credential. Luckily, I've cached this, and so it'll also can autocomplete for me.
Sweet.
And then what's awesome is that if we just hit F8, we can run this line back in our integrated terminal and get the output.
That's cool.
So something that's cool about these notebooks as well is that my colleague provided me a SQL query as well as the saved output so that I can run this and see to make sure I followed the instructions correctly and everything is set up just right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this query and actually put it in my PowerShell script by using the command invoke SQL command. Put back in the server instance. Put in my credential again.
All of these things we could cache at some point.
Right,
put
exactly.
In variables and stuff. Yeah, that's cool. Okay.
Put in the query. And then if we run F8 again, we'll see in our terminal, we can verify this against that notebook. And make sure.
Make sure that
what we had actually ended up. And what's really great about having this all within PowerShell is that now if I want to take this command and run it against all of my SQL instances, all I have to do is call into my central management server, pull that list, and run those commands. So the integration between PowerShell and SQL is really valuable in these automated instances where you're pulling across various servers.
Yeah, it's really natural. I've seen in times where people try to do all of these things with just SQL, and that's not really natural. And you can't really do it all with just PowerShell, but it's that merging of SQL when it's appropriate, PowerShell when it's appropriate. And in this case, you're doing it locally, and then you could do it to Azure.
Exactly, yeah. You can see here across the connections, if I were to sign into Azure, I could also have my Azure SQL instances right in here.
It seems obvious sometimes, but I always reminded I did something really awesome locally and it works, and now I can for loop, and where that for loop could mean thousands of servers. I can really, really help my organization really easily.
Exactly, and that's really where the efficiency piece is going to come in with PowerShell automation.
So how many things did you have to install for me to have this power? I install Azure Data Studio, ADS.
Right. Exactly. You're going to want to have the PowerShell extension installed, and there's various other extensions that you can use depending on what you're trying to get done. But those are really the two big aspects. And then the other thing, as we started with, are these various SQL modules that are primarily written by community members and always growing. So you can get those from the PowerShell gallery, and those are another great place to start with resources.
Okay, and that's a really good reminder also that you've used two different words that I needed to keep separate. There are the extensions, which are on the left side, which are extensions to Azure Data Studio.
Right.
And then there are modules, which you used import module.
Yeah, exactly.
And those are PowerShell modules.
Exactly, yep.
All right, cool. So I can go and make this happen after this show.
Exactly.
All right, fantastic. I am learning all about how to use PowerShell in Azure Data Studio, and do cool stuff and create SQL servers out of thin air in the cloud here on Azure Friday.